Well, ladies and gentlemen, he's got the best NFL GM nickname. I'll say that. Chef Hortiz is what they're calling you these days around Charger Land. Joe Hortiz is with us. Appreciate your time, sir.
Appreciate you guys having me.
Yep.
Well, let's get started. You were at the podium earlier, 26 free agents.
Yeah.
You did such a heck of a job last year with limited resources that now you've got to figure out how to make it all work.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? You got 65 or whatever million bucks according to whatever site you want to check out versus what you inherited last year and how you approach this offseason versus last year.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly have more cap space and cap room, and Ed and Katie did a great job of helping create it last year when we needed it, and we made some moves obviously to get it done. And this year we have a little bit more flexibility, but we do have a lot of guys to re-sign, try to re-sign, and our goal is to bring back as many, if not all of them. I know that may be unrealistic, but we're going to try, and and then keep stacking and building depth.
Joe, was it surprising that so many guys that you signed last year made such meaningful contributions? Obviously, one-year deals. A lot of guys proved themselves as Chargers. I mean, how surprising was it to see so many guys make meaningful contributions?
Well, we had opportunity last year, and we're going to have opportunity again this year. And so, no, it wasn't surprising because, those guys came in with the challenge like, hey, here's an opportunity for you. Go out and compete, and you'll be rewarded, and they all came and did it. And I think that's what's great about Coach. Like, he says it's real. Competitors welcome. So if you're new to the fold of the Chargers, you're going to have an opportunity to do something meaningful. And those guys did it, and I'm proud of them and happy for them, and see if we can get as many of them back as we can.
We mentioned it with players. You're in the same system. You can build on what you learned as opposed to having to relearn everything. You show up. You inherit a staff. We know them well. We love those guys. So what is it for a general manager, kind of learning how they scout players and now how different that is for you going into your second draft with a lot of the guys that were here when you showed up?
Yeah, definitely. And like that first year in that room, just me personally, you're like, okay, you're running the flow of meetings. You're making sure everything's going right. And you have to evaluate how they evaluate, and what I mean by that is, some scouts grade high, some scouts grade low, but the important thing is how you stack them, and you introduce new ideas and ways of scouting, and they absorbed it and took it and ran with it, and so now this year I'm familiar with all of them. We're speaking the same language. Last year they had their grading scale. I had a different grading scale. So
really,
yeah, so we just merged it together, and what I did in the board last year is I told them, hey, you give me the grades that you gave them, and I'm going to listen and put them up on the board where they would be on our grading scale. So I put a column which was the new grading scale, but they read their reports and said the current Chargers grade, and they'd see how they tied together. So now it helped them transition to the new grading scale.
So it doesn't, because people I think that listen find this stuff fascinating. You know what the combines turn into. I thought that pretty much everybody had kind of that, 5 through 7. This is a starter. This is a high-level starter. Was 6'9". Is that the scale that you were on? You showed up and okay.
Right. So and like that's if you talk to Daniel, he talks about a guy being a 6'9" and 6'7". They were 1'1" to 5'3", or really, so 1'1", 1'2", 1'3".
Right.
It's more like a round type grading scale, and we don't, where I'm from, we never graded based on rounds. This is what level starter is.
Gotcha.
But they saw where a 1'1" or a 1'3" or a 2'3" fits in this.
And a 6'9".
When I put them on the board, okay, a 2'3" is that okay?
Right.
So it helps them transition, I think.
What was that exercise like for you? Because you were used to just one thing at the Ravens.
Yeah.
To see somebody else and trying to have to meld that in your first year.
Yeah. You just you do it long enough, so you just had to. I had to interpret what colors meant and what their numbers meant, and so you just feel it out, get a feel for it, and just listen. The great thing is in the meetings you talk about players and you just discuss them, and so as they're saying their grades and colors, I'm like, okay, I know what that is. I see where it correlates to how we would have done things in Baltimore. So
Joe, the free agency, and look, you get free agents first, and then you get the draft.
Yeah.
Kind of how you approach free agency and what that means for what you're capable or what you're able to do in the draft, and how you get those two to work together. How hard is that? How challenging? Is it different for different positions? And kind of what goes in? Well, he called you chef. It's a Coach Harbaugh calls you Chef Hortiz. You get the ingredients. how you balance those things out.
Yeah, so certainly this year we have a lot of free agents. That's where we attack free agency first. We want to get our guys back in the fold. And then you just supplement and build the roster and, hey, we need X. These are the guys out there. Who's the best fit? Who's the best value? Who's the best bang for your buck? Or, what you're willing to pay and does it make sense? But that's fluid, and you could be, and we experienced it last year. You're going after one player and he goes somewhere else, and then you pivot to the next one. So you got to stay fluid. You got to be ready to, change directions.
Does it correlate with the draft? Like, hey, there's depth here, there's not depth here. Let's go get this here so we can draft this there.
It can. It certainly can. And that's knowing the draft. And we have our meetings. The way we do it, we meet on the draft, and then we stack free agent meetings afterwards. So if we have a position on our board that we feel is thin, and it marries up with a position that's deeper in free agency, you can maybe put a little bit more effort into signing that position, in free agency to help, give you some, flexibility in the draft versus saying, hey, we got to take and that's what you don't want. You don't want to be stuck in the draft saying we got to take X, because it's a hole in our team. So you use free agency to kind of fill out, build the roster,
at least get a gap.
A gap, and then it allows you to hit the draft like, okay, we have this player, we signed him, but it's not going to stop you from going to get a rookie at the same position,
A lot of questions about J.K. Dobbins here, and what an awesome story it was to see him and just take his opportunity, run with it, and be such an important part of this football team. How do you reflect on J.K.'s year, his 1 year as a Charger, and how important is it to try to bring him back into the fold?
Oh, I love J.K., and when I think of J.K., I reflect on J.K.'s career because I've been with him the whole entire time. And just his perseverance, his dedication, and then just the way he embraced it and attacked it was awesome. And the energy, enthusiasm he does it with, and it was really fun to see him have the success he had last year. And he was very impactful for us and a big part of what we did, and that's why we want to try to get him back.
Speaking of big, right behind Justin Herbert, the biggest number is Joey Bosa. And, having been around Joey for 8 years now, he's one of everybody's favorite guys. There's just nobody better that you would want to have a conversation with.
He's great.
He is the best. He is one of my apps. So it's a huge number. Kind of how does all that stuff get weighed, when you try to figure out awesome guy to have around, great, but there's the body betrayal sort of thing, kind of what goes into that and how you're going to approach Joey this offseason? I
think you just you take everything in. Well, it's just Joey and every other player, and, but you weigh it all and you make decisions. But what I'll say about Joey is I love Joey just like you love Joey, and that he's an awesome dude and a great teammate. Loves the Chargers, said he wants to retire as a Charger. He's come out and said that, and I'd love for him to retire as a Charger. So I had a blast with him, and I didn't know Joey. I didn't know any of these guys.
Right.
And but just a fun, just a great dude and a great teammate, and cares so much about the game and the organization and the team and his teammates. It's been a blast.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah. And something I would have never had if I didn't have this opportunity to be the GM here. And, same goes with, Khalil and Derwin, the energy Derwin has. I walked into coach's office and Derwin was in there. And my first meeting with Derwin. And last time I spoke to Derwin was at the Combine. And, man, I was ready to run through a wall for Derwin.
It's like weird, isn't it? It's a weird energy that you can it's an aura that emanates from him.
It's a presence, it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Derwin, you mentioned this in your press conference, bringing back Elijah Bolden, how important that was because, A, Elijah was a very productive player and proved himself to be a Charger, but B, opening up Derwin to be Derwin.
Right.
How impactful is it to bring Elijah back for the long term?
I think it's very impactful because, you saw what we were able to do with the three safeties on the field, and it's kind of a hallmark with Derwin, a hallmark of Jesse's defense, and so, we look at Derwin, we don't look at Derwin as a safety. We look at Derwin as Derwin, and so you get him near the line of scrimmage. You can do so many things with him. You have him play nickel, and blitz him off the edge. Like, it just having those two with Derwin creates so much, variety with our defense. So really excited to get him back. He had a great year for us, and excited.
He was missed in Houston.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And he was wanting to be here, and we were wanting him back, and just great to get it done.
Have you noticed, just in terms of, we see so many players now with the portal, and you don't have to sit out a year in NIL. Are there certain traits that guys that come from D2 or D3 or FCS to FBS, like this chip on their shoulder, it just feels like you can, when you watch film and you go back and you're like, oh yeah, this guy was here. It just have you noticed something like that?
Yes, yeah, certainly. Like, any player that starts at a lower level, and whether now it's changed, you're not going to get as many D2 players in the draft because they will have gone from D2 to D1, right? Because of the portal, But yeah, hey, I was overlooked, and man, this is my opportunity, and they have a little bit of a chip and that fight and competitiveness to them, and I've been a part of D2 players in the past that were drafted, and you see it, and so when they get up to, and that's not the case all the time, but they get up to the D1 level through the portal, you see that competitiveness and that fight and desire show up at that next level, then you got something.
When all things are even, is that something that you like? Is that a positive trait? You're like, you know what, these guys kind of. Is that one of those things that it could be a tiebreaker?
The competitiveness, like the desire, the passion for the game, that mentality. Yeah, those are the things you weigh. You have the player, and then you start thinking about, you start factoring in the background and the mentality and what type of teammate they are and their character off the field, and those are the real tiebreakers. But those guys that exude that and present that in who they are, definitely helps you.
The compatibility between the front office and the coaching staff was evident from the very beginning. This is your first year working with Jim. You had worked with John. What were the expectations going in? And I'm sure it exceeded it this year. And just the relationship that you have with Jim, it's been so cool to you're Batman now.
Yeah.
He's Robin and vice versa, calling you Chef Hortiz.
Yeah.
What's it been like working with Jim?
That's been awesome. I mean, it's honestly, I can say this, it's a joy to work with Jim. It is a lot of fun, and it's every day, And so, certainly coming in, I had familiarity with him because I knew him, but I'd never worked with him. And obviously I know John and the way John was raised, and I knew Jim's father, and so I knew what was instilled in both of them, and certainly I've gotten to know Jim over the years as a coach. But yeah, I knew it was going to be great, and it's exceeded the expectations because we truly have fun together every day, and and that's what the game's about. Like, hey, let's work hard, let's have fun,
Last thing for you. You spend how many years in Baltimore? 26?
26, yeah.
Okay. You raise your kids there. They're baseball kids.
Yeah.
Orioles fans, I'm guessing.
Huge Orioles fans.
Did they flip in 12 months? You come to L.A., you get to see Ohtani, you get to see a World Series, iconic Dodger Stadium.
Right.
Are your kids
it's
now,
a lot of years at Camden Yards,
are they
though.
Dodger fans already,
All right,
as
so
they should be?
Some of them, they've been to a couple Dodgers games, and they had a great time. Two of them, my younger two, Jamie and Julian, they've been to the games. I took them to one of the World Series games, and they had a blast.
Okay.
My Joey's still in Baltimore, so Joey hasn't flipped.
So
yet.
he hasn't, yeah.
And Jack,
he doesn't know what he's missing.
Jack, we're convincing. Jack's 16 years of Orioles,
right.
And so Jack may take a little bit of, he's older, so he's more grounded in the Orioles, or rooted in with the Orioles. So I got to work with him on that, you know. But
and the O's are good now.
I
O's are good now too.
I know,
whatever.
They're great, So, but no, they've enjoyed it, and they're having fun. And it's been what a year the Dodgers had. I mean, it's just awesome. And gosh, they got even better, I think, this year. So not to put expectations on them, but certainly the whole world knows they're going to be pretty good again.
But to be in Los Angeles, where there's two of everything, and we got Luka with the Lakers, the Dodgers, the Chargers winning 11 games. It's got to be cool to be a part of this sports universe.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, there's a lot of excitement around LA sports, and I see why. It's such a competitive environment, but I think coach says it, iron sharpens iron. Well, that's what we're all doing.
Yeah,
like,
they're all competing.
Let's match what they've done. And so it's been fun.
All right, backfields at Camelback Ranch. We got to get them out there. We'll show Jack some bullpen sessions with Sasaki and Ohtani, and we'll flip them in no time.
There you go.
All right, Joe. Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Yep.
Take care.
Yep. It's a lot. I'm a lot more comfortable in it. It's like a whirlwind. Thinking back through the first year, you know, people ask you like, "Oh, do you have?" Was it like, drinking through a fire hose? And oh no, it's great, it's great. But then when you actually think back of it, it's drinking through a fire hose. It is. I mean, everything's coming at you fast. They're coming at you from all ends and in all directions. So this year, we're in the routine. The organization, our player personnel department knows the routine. The coaches have been through it once already, so everyone's familiar with the process. And so, it's a lot. We're in the groove now. Yeah, that was Elijah was a big one for us. Obviously we loved what he did once we got him over to LA, and you know, the flexibility and the versatility he offers and what it allows our defense to do. We played a lot of three safeties last year, and so that allows us to stay with what we found successful last year and lets Derwin be Derwin, and so that was a huge, re-signing extension for us. So we're very happy that got done. Yeah. Yeah, it is a deep running back class in my opinion, and I think that's a lot of people's opinions. In terms of traits, competitiveness with the Chargers, that's the number one trait. What type of competitor he is, what type of teammate they are off the field, and character. But when you look at a guy that can run the ball, obviously you love versatility. There's some backs that are guys that are just going to tote the rock. There's other guys that offer a little bit more in the passing game. So all backs are different, so you want them to be able to pass protect. Some are better at that than others. And but as a group, it is a pretty talented group. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's one, right? Um, to define close, not close, I'm not sure if I'd put a close on any of them, but conversations are being had with all of them, and you know, I'm with Coach. I loved our group of guys last year. It was a special team. It was great to be a part of, and you felt it out there, and you guys saw them out there. Those of you that were in LA with us, and it really was a lot of fun. And yeah, ideally we'd love to bring them all back. Is that realistic? I don't know if it is. Coach doesn't know if it is, but we're going to try. With it, with okay, yeah, yeah, I love comp picks. Yeah, great question. You know, I think you balance. You do. If you lose somebody, you say, okay, what's that going to get us back? And you can make a decision based off of that. There's other ways to add players. If it's a cap casualty or not a UFA, so you can play that game. But I think the main goal is always to build the best team we can possibly build. Yes, you want to acquire comp picks, but you really do that when you just have a really deep team that continually replenishes itself, and we're still building towards that. So is every year going to deliver 3 or 4 comp picks? I can't guarantee that, and I would never guarantee that. But I don't think you let it play too much of an impact in your decision making. Oh, by the Ravens? Oh, a lot. I mean, I lived there for 26 years. I watched Ozzie do it and master it, and I saw the benefits of it. So I believe it's free picks, and it's a way to build depth on your roster, and you end up hitting. You get starters, you get great backups. So it definitely is something that I found to be very valuable for us, the way we did in Baltimore, and hopefully it's going to be valuable for us going forward in LA. Familiarity. He's a great dude. I've only known him for a week, or maybe a little over it, but he's been awesome, and he's a grinder, and it gives you an outside perspective, a fresh outside perspective. The other thing he's going to bring is, he's going to be familiar with this year's draft class. So we can mine him. Obviously, we know the Michigan players, but he's played against a lot of players in college. He's coached against a lot of players in college, so we can mine him for what his opinion is on those players. Oh, just that he'd be a great ad for us, and thought what he thought of him, how he hired him, when he hired him, and the job he did there at Michigan. So we were excited to get him. Oh man, I mean, it's just a great division. I mean, and you look at, obviously you got the Chiefs, right? And that's who we're all chasing. They've been the kings of the division for a long time now. And but there's a lot of talent in the division. There's a lot of great coaching. Vegas just added Pete. And so a tremendous amount of respect for all the coaches in our division and the teams themselves. And a lot of I know a lot of the GMs, and they do things the right way. So it's great. We get to compete against each other and try to get to the top. Yeah, I think they just Andy does a great job. I mean, I've been a fan of his since he was the head coach of Philly. Grew up in Philly, and so he just does a great job team building, and his coaching staff is excellent, and they do a great job of finding pieces that fit and then tailoring their schemes around the players that they do have. I'm excited. I've never been to Brazil. I've only, in terms of outside the country, British Virgin Islands and Turks and Caicos and 2 London trips. So I'm excited. My family's excited. It's great. We're in a standalone game, kick off the season Friday night. So it's awesome that we're selected for it, and looking forward to it. No, I'm not. And honestly, those are things that really don't fall on my radar. But I know last year there was some questions on it, but I know they've improved the surface. Yeah, we've started talking about that. When we had hints that we may be going to Brazil, we started talking about that. Still in the process of exploring the best options, when to leave. It's I think a 14-hour flight, I believe. And I think it's 4 time zones. So, it'll be a little challenge navigating it, but I think we'll have a good plan for it. Yeah, it's a big week that way because you get a lot of face-to-face with the agents of our players. So all those 26 UFAs, we get a chance to meet with a lot of their agents while we're here. And even if we've had discussions, we can just sit down and continue the discussions. So yeah, you get some work done. You get a feel for where they're at. If we don't already have that feel, but it's continued dialogue. From the UFA standpoint. I didn't hear a whole lot of the question. I know you said offensive line. So I never think a position is solidified other than quarterback, And even with quarterback, you better have, depth behind him, right? So no, I would never say any position on our team is solidified because it's every year is different, and so. That won't preclude us from taking an offensive lineman, because there's 3 first-round picks on the offensive line, But we're going to take the best player available when it comes to drafting, Purposeful. It's the way it's stacked, and when you get a guy, when 2 players are level, even, same grade. You start weighing what they have. So, okay, he's a 4-year starter. He's a 3-year starter. Great leader, team captain. Those little things give him a bump. So I think it's not intentional, but it's thought through and discussed, and then it just played itself out that way. I think, if I think I heard your question is as it's changed, the game's changed. Do you prioritize other different positions differently? You do and you don't. I think certainly there's evaluation to every position, and some positions make more than others, so they may carry a little bit more value. But that you don't push a player up the board because the value has more. There's more value for that position. So you still want to take the best players available, and but you do pay attention a little bit to value. Nothing I can think of.
When considering taking a tight end high in the draft, how important is it for them to be impactful in the run game as well as being a dynamic pass catcher?
Yeah, you want a complete tight end if you take a tight end high in the draft, right? I mean, like, you want the weapon, but you want someone who can get out there. Otherwise, they're one-dimensional. So you take a player high, you want someone who can help in all facets of the game. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's awesome. And I've been afforded that opportunity many years over my career, but there's been some years where we didn't have one, and it's a little stressful, and yeah, it's been a while because we went from Joe to Lamar in Baltimore, and then I come to Justin, so it's like, but I do remember the days where it's like, okay, we need to address the quarterback situation, and it would be it'd be a stressful thing, and you got to have a quarterback in this league to be consistently successful. Oh yeah, so Ladd, love him. Just a special competitor, great dude, great teammate, and certainly what he did this year was awesome to see. And then with Kirby, I've known Kirby probably, I don't know, 27 years, 29 years, really since I got into coaching and working at Auburn, and watched him grow as a coach. And Georgia's just a special place. What he's established there, develops pros. It creates toughness, creates competitiveness. I talk about like depth on our team. You want to create a competitive culture. He's got that, and just a special place, great place. I went to Auburn, but Athens is probably my second favorite SEC town and environment. So he's got a good thing going there. We're out there looking, and we're in all those small schools, and I think it might be a cyclical thing, and FCS schools, yeah, now with the transfer portal, they're going to get more opportunities, and that's a great opportunity for them. And now, obviously, it hurts some of the schools they're transferring out of, but yeah, I think that will be a common theme going forward because schools can go out there and acquire players that want to move up and go to a higher level of competition. Listen, the Chiefs are a great team, and the Eagles beat them on that day. And I've been a part of some great teams that didn't always win the game. And so Chiefs do a great job, and they're a well-rounded team. And I think the Eagles had a better team that day. Yeah, that's a good question. And there's probably different cases when you're like, hey, this guy could help Justin. Hey, Justin will really help unlock this player. You look at Ladd's a good example. Ladd caught more balls last year than he's ever caught in his career at Georgia. He got more opportunities, but I think Justin's the type of quarterback, to answer your question ultimately, that makes other players better. And so that's what we believe we have in him, and that's how we select players. We select every player, regardless of the position, with the idea that Justin will help this guy level up. We evaluate them the same way. We go into the schools, our scouts go into the schools, we talk to the staff that's currently there, get the background, we build a profile on them, coaches evaluate them, and yes, there's some coaches on our staff that are evaluating guys they've coached, but they're also going to slot them in where they believe they belong. And so there's an influence of knowledge about the player that they may have more of that player than another player that they don't know, but we rank the players based on the player they are, the athlete they are, the talent they show on film. One more time. Yeah, philosophically, I believe in building through the draft. Now obviously, you have to spend money in free agency. You spend money on your own players. We have 26 players that are still unrestricted free agents, so we have an opportunity to re-sign as many as them first, and then attack free agency as it happens. And you use free agency to fill out your roster, to supplement your roster, to go get something you need. But the two play hand in hand. But I think you don't make decisions in free agency and then plan to make adjust accordingly in the draft. You want to be able to draft the best player available and help the team, because the draft is a 4 or 5 year solution when you pick a player. So free agency is not always that. Last year we signed a bunch of 1-year deals, and so some deals aren't as long. So stay draft centric and use free agency to build around it.
Active day here at the Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, and we heard from head coach Jim Harbaugh of the Chargers earlier. Now, Joe Hortiz, second year as general manager. How fast has that first year flown by, Joe?
It's been quick. I mean, someone asked me the question at the podium, like, what's the difference the year and, this year versus last? And it's just like, man, last year was just, you didn't think you were drinking through a fire hose. You didn't think you wanted, you didn't want to say you were, but when you reflect on it, man, it came at you fast and furious. And got into the routine once the draft, once free agency and the draft got going. The season was awesome. But yeah, you look up and we're already here at another combine.
How does things change being the man, right, and not being, one of the underlings? We always ask coaches, like, how did life change when you became the head coach?
Yeah.
How did life change for you becoming, the main guy in charge in the front office?
I'd like to think it hasn't, really.
Okay.
I followed the routine I learned. I followed the path I learned in Baltimore and tried to apply it and try to be the same person I've always been. And, I guess the biggest difference is you're making the ultimate decision.
Right.
But you believe in the process, you trust the process because it's proven, and you follow it. So, the process leads you to the decision. So, I just operate the process.
You don't feel like there's I have to put a fire out, this or that.
Yeah, a little bit more of that.
You do. Yeah, you hear coaches say that.
You do. You definitely have to deal with a lot more little things.
Right.
Than as a director of player personnel or a director of college scouting. Yeah, certainly.
Joe, what's one thing you've learned in the last year that you wish you'd known a year ago?
One thing I've learned in the last year that I wish I knew a year ago, probably hey, be prepared for all these little things. Like, your time is going to be taken up more than you realize. Because you're not going to sit down and watch film for 3 hours straight. You're going to get interrupted. You're going to have to get out of your chair and go do something. And so, to prepare for that, now having done it for a year, okay, you got to budget your time as effectively as you can.
What about you and coach? Like your relationship and how you talk and see players in this part of the process. How does that all work together?
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. Coach, I love him. And I said it last year, we're having a blast. We haven't stopped. We're having a great time. And it's just every day we talk. He comes in the office. I pop in his office. We talk about players. We talk about players on our team, what we want to do. We talk about college players. It's awesome, Coach. I told him last couple weeks ago we had draft meetings, and he sat through every single draft meeting and just listened.
Yeah.
Just listened to the scouts. Hadn't done a lot of guys at that point, but just wanted to hear what the scouts said about the players. And I told him there's not a lot of head coaches that'll sit in a meeting this early to just listen.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask
I'm
off
going
of
in a
that.
different direction.
Okay, because I was going to ask just off of that. I asked him today, do you feel like you have an advantage because you're 2 years out of college? You know these guys.
Yeah.
And he said, I have some of their phone numbers still.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah.
So do you feel like you can lean on him a little bit more
absolutely.
for little details maybe? Right.
Oh, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
We had a high school group in a couple weeks ago that they lost their homes in a fire.
Okay.
And the fires out there. And they, the Chargers, they did a great job bringing him in. And he met one of the high school kids and was talking to him and actually recruited his brother and was able to talk about stories when he was playing catch with the kid that was there.
Wow.
And so, Coach, he's so engaging, and he knows so many players. When we're here, most of the players we bring in the 45 interviews, he's like, I remember remember you came to my house, and they have that instant connection.
Right.
So he knows about he knows a lot about the kids that as people.
I'm keeping my distance from him, as I say, because I work with a guy who's very handsy and wants to punch me and hit me and grab me. I got a feeling Harbaugh's that way, right? Does he like come up and grab you and shake you and punch you?
Yeah, and I don't punch you. But yeah, he'll come up and like, hey, but he's not super handsy. We may tangle up a little bit every once in a while. We may have wrestled once, or started wrestling a little bit, but
that's awesome.
He's gonna be harder to get away from.
Combo, I think
he's gonna be harder to get away from now that he's got a good hip.
I know. Back then I had an advantage. He's walking around on that bum hip. Now he's feeling strong. He looks so much better. I mean, golly. He got that thing done. He was walking straight again, and the pain's gone. So I'm happy for him.
Year one success. I don't care. I know you guys wanted to win the Super Bowl. It was successful to all us people out here for sure. But year two, now there's expectations, and damn, you guys got some work cut out from you.
Yeah.
I mean, I just looking at your list of players on your team that are free agents.
Yeah, it's
Khalil Mack, Asante Samuel, Christian Fulton, Joey Bosa looms over in that conversation. What's kind of your plan of attack this offseason?
We've had conversations with all their agents, and really we're going to try to. Coach said it. I want to bring them all back, and we're going to try to bring back. Is it realistic to say we're going to bring them all back?
Right.
Probably not, but we can try. And we got Elijah locked up, and we're just keep working at it, and then we got the draft on top of it, and we just try to bring back as many guys as we can. Love the group of players. I mean, it was so much fun, that team. I bit 27 seasons, and it was one of my most enjoyable seasons just being around the team.
Yeah, right.
Forget the success we had, and how the year went. It was just a great group of guys, and love to get them back as many as we can.
Yeah. How concerned are you that last year's running back class being so successful with Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, that's going to make somebody possibly give J.K. Dobbins an offer you guys just can't match?
Yeah, I mean, that possibility exists. It does. And I think that's, when we signed J.K., I told him we're going to give you an opportunity to get out there and create an opportunity for yourself. And obviously we want to bring J.K. back, but that is a realistic thing. Someone could come at him really aggressively in free agency, and we're going to keep working to try to get him back in the fold in LA.
Do you feel like with guys like yourself, thoughts are changing about running backs a little bit there after the last 2 years, and some of the teams we're seeing be successful, like the 49ers or the Lions, and of course with kind of marquee running backs?
Yeah, we draft them every year, right?
Right.
We do. We keep drafting.
You keep drafting them, right? But maybe not as high.
Yeah,
right,
but we keep taking the shot. So maybe the value of the position took a step back, and now it's maybe coming back a little bit. But you're always going to be you need running backs, and so I think everyone's going to be addressing it in the draft and in free agency. You always attack it, and but it's probably a cyclical thing, And right now wide receivers are way up there, and you don't know if that the market. You don't know what the market's going to do. You got to anticipate and have a plan for it.
One more off that. I'm sorry, just on the draft stuff. All right. We usually go back and forth. I knew I was cutting you off. But how much do you have your plan in place for the whole offseason as we sit here right now? I know it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
You got to balance what's available in free agency and what's the big positions of the draft. How much do you kind of know already?
Yeah, I've certainly after meetings, where the strength lies in the draft, and I'll say this about the draft. It's a good draft at a lot of spots.
Right.
So it's a deep draft. So you're going to be able to pick a player at most positions at all points of the draft. So that's a great feeling to have when you got 10 picks.
Right. Gotcha.
Or I anticipated 10 picks. But you set your plan out in free agency. You set your plan out with your team, what the priorities are. But you might have to pivot on a dime. And so I think you don't lock yourself into any one approach, but you set your defined plan or your plan, and just know you have to adjust.
Have a little wiggle room.
Yeah.
Right.
Joe, the Chiefs have ruled the AFC West ever since Patrick Mahomes became the starting quarterback, and they were doing pretty well before that, too. How much of your roster management is geared toward competing directly with them?
Yeah, first of all, we build the team based on what our coaching style is, philosophy. So we're going to build our team for us, but you have to beat those guys. How are we going to beat the Chiefs and the Broncos and the Raiders? You got to win the division first, to guarantee yourself a spot for the playoffs. So that's your ultimate goal. We want to be a big, physical, tough team, and that's how we feel like we can accomplish that.
Right. You're the Harbaugh team. You're from the Ravens. Of
Right.
course you want big and tough and physical.
Yeah.
Shocker there.
Yeah.
All right, here's a fun one for you. No chickening out here, okay? All right, no chickening out because it's not that hard.
Okay.
All right, but what's the position that's hardest to evaluate when you're here? What has like the most variables, right? I think the fans, they always ask me, who's better to ask than you, that you just go, man, this is never an easy one, right? They're all hard, but
Here at the combine?
yes, just or in general.
All right, so
just in general.
one position that's hard as an evaluator,
Right.
and it's not hard, it's just you have to watch a lot of film, the two, corner and safety.
Yeah, right.
You've got to watch a lot of film on DBs because you could be looking at a corner and he's not getting targeted,
Right.
and so, same thing with safeties. They may not have a lot of opportunity in
Right.
games, so you may watch a game and
Go, there's
man,
3 or 4 plays that really matter.
So,
Right.
But here, anytime a ball's involved, it can be challenging because the quarterback's throwing to a wideout he doesn't know.
Right.
A wideout is running
Routes that he's never really been taught how to do it this way.
The route may look great, but the ball's off the mark.
Right.
I mean, the guy may run a great route. Wow, look at that. But the ball, so you can't see him catch it.
I
So
hear
but that's football, right? So
Right.
but
But that was a good answer. I like that.
But it's great to see because
Right.
you go see a quarterback go out there and compete and do it, and man, he looked really good. Then you get excited about him. Same thing with the wideout.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Right.
When you saw the range for the salary cap, 277.5 to 281.5, I believe, is the tentative range. Did that mesh with your expectations or surprise you?
It meshed with it. We were maybe forecast a little lower, but we tend to forecast conservatively. I think most teams probably do, but it was in the range.
Last one.
Go ahead.
They're going to tinker with the kickoff more, apparently. What are your thoughts, big picture, on the change of the kickoff formation and the apparent reality that it's here to stay?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I think the league as a whole did a good job with it, embracing it, and created more kickoff returns, and I think it created some fun for the special teams coaches too. I'll be honest. When it first came, I was like, just move the ball back, but I enjoyed it. It looks different, right? You're not used to it, and what's funny is you watch that, and then you go and watch a college tape. You're like, oh, that's right. They kick off the old way.
The old normal way.
It's got to make it harder to scout, though. I don't know how granular you get with potential special teams guys, but it's a completely different formation. You don't know who can run the NFL version until they're in the NFL.
100%. You're right with that. And but we didn't know. In the end, when you're talking about covering kicks, it's can he block? Can he get in position?
Is he willing to go throw
is
his
he
body
athletic?
around?
Is he tough?
Yeah.
Right. So it's similar. It really is like a kind of like a extended run play.
Yeah.
So who's going to get in position? Who's going to have the body control? So you're just looking for the athlete and the competitiveness.
One, I know you're gone, and this is the last one for me. I'd always like to ask about like the Super Bowl champions, right? The Eagles. What just jumps out about them as a team and how they're built to you, the GM of the Chargers?
Yeah, how strong they were throughout.
Right.
And you look at their offensive and defensive lines, really just deep, talented, lines.
Gigantic.
Yeah,
right.
huge.
Right.
Control the line of scrimmage. You can control the game. So that stands out to me.
Yeah.
Joe Hortiz entering year 2 as the general manager of the Los Angeles Chargers. Joe, thanks for some of your time. Before you know it, we'll be back here for next year.
No doubt.
All right, we'll be back with more
Don't
from
rush
Indy.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, Joe, this time last year, you had to find money.
Yeah.
This year, you've got a lot of money to go shopping.
Yeah.
A lot more fun?
Yeah. We got a little bit more money. Certainly, we're not having to make moves to get money or free up money, so that takes a little bit of stress out of it, and opportunity for us to continue to build the team and do it in the way we want to do it, with a little bit of flexibility. So we're excited about it.
Well, now your head coach kind of put you on notice because he said that he'd like to keep as much of last year's team intact as possible. What was it about last year's team that worked so well?
It was such a great collection of people and that loved the game, that had passion for the game of football, that had passion for each other. And the chemistry there was awesome. It was led by Jim, and it just filtered down throughout the whole organization, all the players, everyone pushing in the right direction, doing it together. And it was a great bond, and it really was. He talks about it being his favorite team he's ever coached. I remember walking around in November, December, saying to myself, I've been on playoff teams. I know this is a playoff team. This team is special. And certainly didn't end the way we wanted to, but, really proud of the effort and that everyone gave and the performance. And, yeah, you want to – is it realistic? Probably not, but you want to try to bring them all back,
We'll come back to the ones that I think you have to bring back.
Yeah.
But having said all of that, you do definitely have a better handle on who you have and where maybe some of your holes are.
Yeah.
So when you think about areas that you really need to address, what sticks out to you?
Well, I'll say this, I'll bang this all day, the rest of my career. I just believe in having a deep team. And so to pinpoint one hole, I really mean this. If to say we have this hole that we need to fill, you fill that hole and it can become a hole. Build a deep team and be as strong as you can across the board, and that's what we're going to try to do.
All right, well, let's talk about the quarterback position. I was there when Jim Harbaugh and John Harbaugh were arguing about who loves their quarterback more.
Yeah.
We know how much Jim loves Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I know how much John loves Lamar.
You know that very well
right.
from your years there.
Yeah.
But how do you better help Justin? You got him Lad McConkey last year.
Yeah.
What else would you like to see around Justin?
I think you just keep adding weapons for him, and then you keep adding protection for him and a run game, and you build a great team. And I said it last year here, you build a great defense, it helps Justin. It gets him the ball back quicker. It takes stress off of him to go out there and have to produce drive, every drive. So, I think you help Justin by truly building a well-rounded team around him. And certainly, quarterbacks, you get them weapons. All quarterbacks in the league want weapons, but they also want to be protected, and they also want to be able to turn around and hand the ball off and with a strong running game. So, it's complementary football, build a complementary team, and that's how you help them the most.
You're tossing all these teases out here.
Yeah.
You have any Rashawn Slater news you want to break for us?
No news there other than I love Rashawn. I can tell the world that. Great dude, great player. Had an awesome year, and glad he's a Charger.
You talk about the run game,
Yeah.
so that leads to J.K. Dobbins,
Yeah.
one of my favorites,
Yeah.
and then my all-time favorite, Khalil
Yeah.
Mack.
Yeah.
How are things looking with the two of them? And
It's great.
anything you can tell us.
No, nothing I can report today, but we're those two. Everyone else you talked about, all the players we want to bring back. We've had conversations with all of them or their representation. We'll continue that dialogue from now till free agency, and hopefully get some stuff done.
When you talk about how much you love a team, though, Khalil Mack in particular,
Yeah.
is there something about him that really stands out to what you're trying to build as a culture?
So much about him, so much. Not one particular thing, but Khalil. The best way for me to describe Khalil is to say this: we have a bunch of young guys on our staff in scouting, and I look to them and I say, guys, you are blessed to have a player of Khalil's status here to watch, to see what it's like, what you want to find as a pro. I mean, he's, again, great teammate, unbelievable work ethic, unbelievable motor, great talent. There is no flaw to him, and just a wonderful person, great family, and I feel blessed to have been around him for 1 year, and hopefully we can make it longer.
Well, it certainly sounds like a deal could be made. All right, you ready to have a little bit of fun?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll do my best. Last year, I'd give myself like a D. I don't know if I'll do much better this year, but I'll try.
All right, well, we'll start with the trivia. How about that?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, the Chargers are opening the season in
Yes.
Brazil.
Yeah.
So let's see how well you know Brazil.
Okay, not very well, I can tell you ahead of time.
All right, we'll make an effort here.
Yeah, I'll try.
Where's the confidence?
I've never been to Brazil. I'm looking.
So you're looking forward to
oh my
this
God, I
trip.
can't wait. It's going to be great. I know it's a great country. I know how people who've been there say it's awesome. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right, here we go. What's the capital of Brazil?
Yeah, I'm hoping Sao Paulo, but it may. I don't know.
Brasilia is the correct
Brasilia.
answer.
Brasilia. Okay.
What is the official language of Brazil?
Ooh, Portuguese.
Good.
Got that
Ding.
one. I got that one. I got to thank Eric Acosta for that, I think.
Why?
Because Eric's Portuguese, and we've kind of talked about the Portuguese language, and so I think Eric clued me into that one.
All right. Well, we'll have to give credit
Yeah.
to the Ravens general manager,
Yeah.
and maybe he'll bone you up on some
Yeah,
Portuguese words.
I might need that.
All right. Brazil is the home of a large portion of the world's largest rainforest.
Yeah.
What is that rainforest?
That would be the Amazon rainforest.
Excellent.
Right.
Ding, ding, ding.
I
2
can
out
thank-
of 3.
I can thank, what's that, geography? My geography teacher in probably 8th grade for that one.
All right, 2 more. Let's see. What is the national dance of Brazil?
National dance. Ah, wow. I'm not even going to guess.
I'll give you a clue. Oh, no, it's the wrong clue. Sorry.
National dance. I don't know. Cha-cha? I don't know.
I was going to say Victor Cruz, but
Victor
it's the wrong
Cruz.
dance.
What
Remember
was-
Victor Cruz's
yeah.
celebration?
What was that celebration?
It was the salsa.
Salsa?
But
What
the
is-
correct answer is the samba.
Samba. You know what? I may have heard that before. I just didn't retain it.
I can't dance it for you.
No, okay.
Sorry. This football superstar of the 1960s and 70s holds the Guinness World Record with 1,279 goals.
Pele.
There you go.
There you go.
Not bad. 3 out of 5.
That's not bad.
For a man who's never been to Brazil, not
No.
bad at
There
all.
were some softballs in there.
All right. Who was your idol growing up? We always ask players this.
Who was my idol
yeah,
growing
but GMs.
up?
Did you have a GM idol?
GM idol? No, I did not have a GM idol. I had Randall Cunningham when I was a kid growing up in Philly. Definitely loved Randall Cunningham. I wanted to be Randall Cunningham. You know, in the backyard, I tried to be Randall Cunningham. So I loved him. Mike Schmidt, you know, Philly, and then
Yeah.
Wade Boggs. I was a
A Red
shortstop.
Sox?
Yeah, but Wade Boggs was huge in the 80s when I was a kid. Great third baseman. As I got a little older, I was a shortstop. It was Cal Ripken, you know, baseball guys, you know. But Randall, football-wise, man, I loved Randall and wanted to be him.
Okay, well, this is an interesting question then. Think of as a GM, if you could acquire any one player in the history of the NFL to start a franchise, who would that player be?
Justin Herbert.
All right, then. It's often said of players, this guy is a coach on the field.
Yeah.
Think of all your players right now. Who's a GM on the field?
A GM on the field. Boy, that's a good question. I mean, Derwin's pretty engaged in a lot of things, so I'd maybe lean to him right now, you know, just because we talk about ball and we talk about...
Oh, but
you know.
he has no poker face.
Yeah.
Don't GMs need a poker face?
Not really. Just smile and have fun,
Smiles
you know?
all the time. Is there a deal that you saw from afar in any sport that you wondered, how the heck did they pull that off?
Oh, geez. What's the Soto deal is amazing right now. You know, I mean, just now a trade, the recent one with the Mavs and the Lakers, that's pretty cool. Getting Luka, you know, obviously.
He doesn't look so good out there, though.
Luka, he does. You know,
He needs to lose a little weight.
You know, don't we all? You know, so I mean, you know, I'm not going to say that. Look at me. You know,
Oh,
so.
stop. All right, last one. If you weren't a general manager in the NFL, what would your job be?
I'd be a baseball scout probably. You know, I love sports. I love being engaged in it and love watching sports. And I grew up loving baseball. So I'd probably be a baseball scout.
I love how you said scout
Yeah.
and not general manager.
Yeah. Well, I still consider myself a scout.
Well, thank you
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
much.